Hello and welcome to 10,000 Stitches Podcast, a weekly chit chat all about the joys of sock knitting. My name is Andy and thank you for joining me to chit chat about socks today. I am recording this on Sunday, March 20th at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have no notes for today, so we are winging it today. Happy spring. Today's the first day of spring, so yay. And this will be posted on Tuesday, March 22nd. So yeah, like I said, my name is Andy, and you can find me on most social media as Purlbug, P-U-R-L-B-U-G. My blog is at thepurlbug.com, and we have a Ravelry group, the 10,000 Stitches Podcast group, where you can come and join and chat with all of us about this stuff. Let me see here. If you were looking to get it in contact with me, you can do so through any of those social medias that I mentioned. So Instagram, Twitter, or Ravelry. You can just send me a message to Purlbug, or you can, on my blog, there's a comment form that you can fill out that will send an email directly to me and I can reply to you via email. Or on the contact page on my blog, there is also my P.O. Box address. So if you want to send me a piece of snail mail and I will write back to you, you can do that too. Any links, if you are looking for links to patterns or shops or anything like that, those will be in a couple of places depending on where you're watching this. If you are watching this on YouTube, there will be a link in the description box below, and that will take you to my blog. And then on the blog, post for this episode, all the links will be right below the video. And then that will be similar on Ravelry. If you're watching this on the Ravelry thread for this episode, everything will be linked right below the video. So yeah, I think that's all the introductory stuff. Like I said, I'm going scriptless today. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. I want to try and hurry up and get this recorded before I lose my light and before I get too hungry, because like I said, it's about 4 o'clock. So after this, I get to go get groceries and then cook dinner. So yeah. Awesome. So we're going to follow pretty much the same format that we usually do. We'll talk about finished objects, works in progress, what's coming up. I have a new stuff thing to show you guys, a little bit of new yarn. We'll talk about the knit along, and then I have question of the week, and then we'll talk a little bit about this week for me, this past week, and chit-chatty kind of stuff. Also, I realized last week when I went to edit the video, usually what I do is I right away export everything or import everything into iMovie, stitch it all together, and then export it right away. And sometimes I will even upload it to YouTube right away before I've ever even watched it. So I was like, wow, this is kind of a short talk this week. And then I watched it and realized that I just talked really fast. Like, I covered the same amount of material as usual, but I just talked super fast. So I'm going to try and not do that today, because I realize that for anyone watching who maybe English isn't their first language, or just in general doesn't like listening to people who talk super fast, that could prove to be very annoying. So I'm going to try and slow it on down today a little bit. But let's go ahead and get started. So let's talk about a finished object. I have one finished object and one kind of half object / I guess it's a work in progress, but it's going to hibernate for a little while, so I'm going to call it a half object for now. But let's talk about the finished object, and that is my socks on a plane. So I think I showed these last week. I think I had one partially done. I'm trying to think of when I finished the first one, and I want to say that was on Monday, maybe. Right now I'm looking at my little planner thing so that I can see what days things got done. So I started this I finished the first one on Tuesday. So this is my sock on a plane. Very pretty. And I have the autofocus on the camera on right now just because I don't want to keep adjusting it while I'm showing things, but then I will turn it off for some of the later segments when I'm not actually showing things to the camera in it, so that way it won't be all crazy. Anyway, these are my socks on a plane, which, as I've mentioned before, are a very late, almost a month late now, birthday gift for Wesley's mother. And these were knit using Knit Picks Stroll in the hand paints, and this is the Northern Lights colorway. And yeah, I mentioned these are socks on plane. I don't remember who did all the patterns that I'm going to talk about, so like I said, they will be linked below, but I'm just not prepared. So yeah, I'm really happy with these. I did about 55 rows in the leg And then I did a heel flap and gusset, but like I said last week, these are the first time I've ever done a heel flap that was just a stockinette heel flap with just a little garter stitch edging, because I really kind of like how easy that makes it picking up stitches. And then I'm not sure how many rows I did on the foot, but I did a total of 20 cable twists before I started decreasing for the toe. And like I said, Wesley's mother has fairly large feet, like width-wise. So these are 80 stitches for the ribbing and then 76 stitches in the rest of the sock. And I did a pretty square toe because she has pretty square toes. And yeah, I'm very happy with them. So these had originally been a project that I was just going to kind of slog away on a little bit at a time at work, because I had these on my queue for much later on, kind of in this 2-month chunk of time. But then I realized that these were on my size 1s, which are 2.25 millimeter needles, and that's kind of my preferred sock needle size. So like when I got thinking about it, I was like, well, I can't really start another pair of socks until I get these finished. So I kind of had that realization on like Friday. So basically these are what I've been knitting on from Friday until today to hurry up and finish them. And I just finished the second one this morning. So yeah, I am really liking them. This yarn was nice. It was very soft and squishy and nice to work with. And as you can see, I didn't have like really any issues with pooling at all, except just right around the heels, or right around like the gusset. So you can see it right about there and kind of on the bottom of the foot here. And it did that on both socks around the gusset area. So here, and you can see it right there too. But otherwise not a lot of pooling or anything, which is very nice, I guess. I wouldn't have minded pooling, but I mean, these aren't for me anyway, so I'm sure she'll love them. But yeah, I am fairly pleased with this. I really liked the sock on a plain pattern because I feel like it's so adaptable. Like if you already have a favorite sock pattern, it's super easy to just kind of add this cable to it. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So those are done and will probably hopefully get mailed off this week so I don't forget about it. But yeah, that's my finished object. And then my half object is my knee-high socks. I think when I showed these last week, I did not have the first one. No, I didn't have the first one done because I finished the first one on Monday. So this is the finished knee-high sock. I think when I showed them last week, I want to say I had done the heel already. But yeah, I did the cuff, heel, and toe in Patton's Croy FX in the cameo colors. So it's these like really pretty sort of like blues and purples and pinky kind of colors, which is a little bit washed out right now. But and then the main body of the sock was done in flax. I wound up doing 40 cable twists for the leg, so that's 160 rows worth of leg, and then just a foot that was long enough to fit my mom's foot, because these are going to be a pair of socks for her. So yeah, I finished this one on Monday night, and I kind of talked about this last week, how sick I am of these socks, and I was just so over it. So I did start the other one. I've been working on the other one, but not a lot. I got the cuff done, and I got a couple of twists done on the leg, and then I just kind of stalled out. I was just so over it. And I mean, I'll talk about this more in like the chit-chatty kind of stuff, but like this past week, I didn't have the same amount of evening time that I normally do. Like I had more nights where I was staying late on campus, which meant that because this pair of socks was staying at home, I didn't have much time to really work on these. I definitely had much more time to work on my socks on a plane. So yeah, but I kind of mentioned this last week, and I've decided I'm going to stick with what I said last week. I was going to see how far I could get by the end of this week, and this is as far as I've gotten, and I'm just going to put them away for a while, and I will probably pick at them as I get the chance, but we're kind of past knee-high sock weather anyway, so I'm just going to get them done when I get them done and let them be a half object, and that's fine. So especially because they are on my US 1.5s, which is a 2.5 millimeter needle, which I don't use much anymore, so I don't necessarily need to like hurry to get them off the needles. So yeah, that's a half object. Who knows when it will be a finished object, but I mean, I don't want to wait forever on it. Like, I'd like to maybe get it done by the time like the cable socks finish up, but I'm not in any real hurry for it. So yeah, that's that. And then I don't really have a work in progress because I think I said I just finished these up this morning. So what I have done so far is wind up the yarn for my next socks. And I had talked about this last week. My next pair of socks is the Viking Socks. And I had asked for help about which yarn to choose. And a lot of people were in favor of this color, which is a little bit washed out here. But it's a very pretty, like bone, parchment, butter, yellow kind of color that I think will work really well to show off the pattern because it's nice and bright, and it will really show off the cabling on those Viking socks. And in case you're curious, this is Cascade Heritage Sock, and the colorway is 5611. And I forget what like the actual name of the colorway is, but this is probably going to get cast on tonight. And so the Viking socks have a lot of cables on the front of them, and then a littler cable, like braid sort of thing on the back. And I'm thinking that I'm going to have to cast them on and knit them as a 80 stitch sock because I plan to do it with my size 1s. And I've already had some problems, and these are being made for me. And I've had problems with some of the other socks that I've made with Cascade Heritage and my size 1s being a little bit too small, even when I made them, as 72 stitch socks. And because when you do cables, that really kind of reduces the stretch, the lateral stretch of your sock. I am thinking I'm going to do these as an 80 stitch sock. And if they're too big, then they're too big, and that's life. My biggest thing is like they might be just a little bit too big, in which case what I will do is just give them to my mom. Because while I typically make the same size socks for her as for me, her foot is a little bit wider than mine is. So if it's just a little bit too big for my foot, I will give them to her, and I'm sure she will appreciate them and they will fit her foot just fine. But yeah, that's the plan. Wound this up this morning, and I'm super duper excited to cast them on. And then the other pair of socks that is upcoming is the Snozberries Socks. And I was looking around for where my yarn was. The Snozberries Socks, which I am planning to make with this yarn. And this is from Kim Dye's yarn. I bought this when I bought the yarn that I used for the last giveaway. And I showed it then, but I'm going to show it again. So this is a Coriadale and nylon blend, 75-25, and the color is blackberry. And I just thought how perfect to use a yarn called blackberry for the Snozberries socks. So yeah, I'm super duper excited to use this on those, and I'm excited because I've never knit with Coriadale before, but it feels like it's soft, but it also feels rustic. Like it feels like a mix between some of the nicer like merino blends and like Patton's Croix. So I'm hoping that this will be a very, what just happened here? I lost my tag. I'm hoping that this will be a very hardy yarn while not being quite as like kind of rough as Patton's Croix tends to be. But I'm super excited about it. And I have to get that pattern bought because it's a paid pattern and I just haven't gotten around to buying it yet. So yeah, there is that. And I forgot to mention this when I was showing off my socks on a plane, but this is how much yarn I had left. I am like the worst estimate of how much yarn a pair of socks is going to take. Estimator. I'm the worst estimator of like how much yarn a pair of socks is going to take because I thought I was going to run out of yarn. Obviously not. I don't have a scale, so like I can't weigh it, but yeah, I was nowhere close. This is ridiculous. I am so bad at that because I always think I'm gonna run out and then I don't. Anyway, let's talk about something new that I got in the mail this week. And this I got as part of a swap that Mina from the Knitting Expat hosted, which was the Expat yarn swap. And I did not get a chance to show the yarn that I sent off, partly because I didn't want to ruin the surprise in case she watched any of my podcasts. And I don't want to like name who I swapped with, but anyway, my swap partner was from Canada, which was really fun because it's foreign but not really. And so yeah, I sent her a skein of yarn, and then she sent me a skein of yarn and some goodies, and I sent her some other goodies too. So I won't show like everything that came in the package because, well, some of it already got eaten, so there's that. But I did want to show the yarn, partly because I will be knitting with this soon. So this is from Fleece Artist, which is a dyer in Nova Scotia. And how pretty is this? Like, I can't. So this is a 80/20 Superwash BFL nylon mix, and this is super exciting because I think I have one other skein of like a BFL nylon yarn, but I've never knit with BFL before, so I'm super stoked about that. And the colorway is Forest Fairy, and seriously, how appropriately named is that colorway? I can't. I love it. And again, it feels very similar to this Corriedale blend, where it's like, it's not something that I necessarily want to have around my neck, but it's soft but sturdy. So yeah, I'm super excited about this. And if I remember correctly, and I'm so far behind on podcasts, guys, I feel so bad. So I haven't watched Mina's last couple. I need to get them watched, but I haven't had a chance to watch the last couple of her podcasts. But if I remember correctly, part of this whole expat yarn swap was that she was going to be doing a knit along, I thought in April, where basically the point was that you would knit a project with, if you were doing part of the swap, you would knit a project with like the skein of yarn that your swap partner sent you, or I think there were some other ways you could participate too. But so yeah, so I obviously want to take part in that, and I want to get this knit up into a pair of socks, which means changing up the order of kind of what I'm doing. So I am going to, probably after the Snozberries Socks, I'm going to stick this in. And I think the socks that I'm going to knit from it are going to be the brainless socks. And because they are a cable pattern, or they have cables incorporated into it, but they seem like they would work very well for a variegated yarn. And really, like, similar to the zigzagular socks, it seems that they would really highlight a variegated yarn versus fighting with it, which I think something more complex like the Viking Socks would definitely not play to the strengths of a yarn like this. So yeah, that will probably come in the first or second week of April. I will do this, and I haven't quite decided which pattern I'm going to be taking out of rotation to be able to put that one in, but I'm thinking I might take out the paraphernalia socks, which were the last pair that I was planning on doing, and they were probably the pair that I'm least excited about. So I'll probably take those out and swap in the brainless pattern, which I'm super excited about. And I'm just super excited to knit up this yarn, and it's just so pretty. And yeah, and the dyer that I ordered the yarn that I sent to my swap partner, I think I will probably order yarn from them again, maybe for the prize for this knit along, or the next one, because I really liked what I got, and I was kind of bummed that I didn't get to knit with it, you know, like, it's like, oh, I now have to send this away. Sad. But yeah, so I'm super excited about that. And speaking of knit-alongs, let's talk about our knit-along. I think as of when I just checked before I started recording, we had 9 finished objects. So like, that's super awesome. And I suspect that we will see probably a bit more of like a boom of finished objects within the next week or two, because then it will have been about a month or so. And while, you know, I can churn out a pair of socks in a week if I really want it, I know not everyone knits that fast. So I'm suspecting that around like the 1 month to 6 week mark, we will probably see a lot of finished objects coming in, which I'm super duper excited about, because I just really love seeing what you guys are doing, and I think it's so much fun. I think it's especially fun when it's a pair of socks that I've knit the pattern, you know, so the zigzagulars or the socks on a plane, something like that, where I've knit the pattern and then I see other people knitting the pattern with different yarns, and it looks like a completely different sock because you can knit the same pattern but get such different results, and I really enjoy that. So yeah, I'm excited to see what people come up with. Sweet. Oh, if you want to join in the knit along, of course I will link with all the other links to the rules and such for it, because my brain it's too late in the day for my brain to remember the rules. So go to that link and you can see the rules and join along with us. And I'm really hoping that this week I will be able to get a video recorded on how to do cables without a cable needle, because I've been meaning to record that video for a while now, and I just have not gotten time, but it is my goal to get that tutorial done this week so that anyone who wants to join in still has like someone who wants to join in but doesn't necessarily know how to do cables or doesn't want to do cables with a cable needle still has time to join in and have like a month to do it after learning a month to make a pair of socks after learning how to do cables like that. So hold me to it. I will get that done this week. Yeah. So then let's talk about question of the week, and then we'll go into chit chat stuff. So my question of the week last week was asking about how people wear hand knit socks in the summer, and I got a lot of really good responses. Unfortunately, not necessarily the response that I wanted, because a lot of people said that they just don't. And I guess I kind of suspected that because last summer both in Wisconsin and here in Richmond, there's a lot of truck going by. Anyway, both in Wisconsin and here in Richmond, I pretty much lived in sandals, either my Birkenstocks or I have a pair of, I forget what the brand is. They're like Keens, so like those kind of like enclosed sandals that have a bunch of cutouts and stuff, which I really love because they're not fabric, like it's like neoprene and rubber, so they're pretty much impervious to water. Like I can get them wet and it doesn't hurt them at all, and if I get them dirty, I just wash them out in the bathtub. So I pretty much lived in sandals last summer, so I suspect I will probably do the same this summer, which is kind of a bummer, but I do like wearing socks actually with that pair of Keen-like sandals that I have, because they don't have a fabric footbed, I find that like my feet get really sweaty in them and it just feels really gross. So I do like to wear socks with those, and especially when I'm indoors and it's like air conditioned inside. So I will probably, wear some of my maybe like lighter weight wool socks at work. And I'll probably wear them too around the apartment in the morning and stuff when it's cool. But yeah, it sounds like I will probably be putting a bunch of them in a box and putting them away for the summer, which is okay. But I mean, the last couple days here, it's been cool. So I actually am wearing a pair of my socks right now, which I will show. So these are my blueberry waffle socks made with Patton's Croix in the gray marl colorway, I think. And then the toes are done in Patton's Croix Route 66. So yeah, I've been wearing those today, and that's been really nice because my toes are cold because it's been chilly here. But yeah, so my question of the week this week is kind of a little bit more involved. So I was having a thought about heel styles and kind of what makes people choose a given style of heel that they prefer. And I have a hypothesis, and I don't necessarily want to I don't want to sway anyone. So basically on the blog, I'm going to have one of those little forms that you can fill out. And similar to what I do for my giveaways and stuff, but this one isn't for a giveaway, it's just to gather data. But I will put a link, if you're not watching this on the blog, or YouTube, I guess, because YouTube, there's already a link. But if you're watching this on Ravelry, there'll be a link in the links down below to this blog post. And I'm going to put a little form in there with some drop-down menus. And I'm curious about what your favorite style of heel is, and kind of how you knit your socks. Both in terms of toe up or top down, and what kind of needles you use. Do you magic loop? Do you do double points? Do you do two circulars? So yeah, and I'll have more instructions kind of with that box and everything, but I'm just very curious about some of this, and then I will report back on my findings next week, hopefully, if I can get enough people to go and do that. So it'll be super fast and easy. It'll just get sent to a Google Doc. I won't even require a name or anything. I just want to gather data and see if my hypothesis is correct. So that's my question of the week. Go to the blog post for this episode, unless of course you're already on it. Go to the little drop down thing, fill out the little boxes, hit submit, and let me know about your preferences for those things. And that's the question of the week. Super easy. And I suppose that while I do my chit chat stuff, I can go ahead and knit on this evil knee-high sock. So yeah, I'm going to launch into chit chat right now. So if you are not interested in hearing about the rest of my life outside of knitting, thank you very much for joining me. I really appreciate the time that you have spent with me today, and I will see you next week, hopefully. Otherwise, let's chit chat about my week. So yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. This was kind of a long week for me. So Normally I do about 6 hours worth of teaching per week. That's 3 2-hour labs. This week I did 12 hours of teaching. So I did 6 labs this week instead of 3, which, I mean, granted, still isn't that much. Like, it's still, a small, about a third to a fourth of my work hours for the week. But like, anyone who's taught before knows that like teaching just really takes it out of you. And especially if you have to do a lot more than you normally do, it is just super exhausting. So the reason that I was doing that is because this week was the March meeting for APS, which is the American Physical Society. And so on Monday, I was teaching Monday evening for one of the other faculty members so the lab that I teach Tuesdays and Thursdays, he teaches the same lab, but on Mondays. And so he was going to be gone. And so he asked me if I could fill in for him. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. And that lab is really nice because it's a lot of older students, older in like further on in their studies. So it's basically just babysitting and making sure that they don't hurt themselves or hurt the equipment. So that was pretty easy, but it still meant being there. And it meant being there later in the day than what I'm used to. Because on Mondays, I'm used to being able to go home kind of, at 5 or so. And I had to stay till 7:30. So that was just kind of a bummer. And I was just worn out from that. And then, let's see. Then Tuesday was when I got my swap package. So that was really fun. And let's see, what else? Tuesday, I had some of my normal teaching in the evening. And it was also really funny. On Tuesday, I got a package at work because part of my job as the lab coordinator is that I am sort of able to create new labs as needed. And so I've been working on taking a couple of labs that existed solely on the computer, which I really hate. Like, I can just see it when students do labs that are entirely on the computer, that they just don't get as much from them because they're not really engaged in the lab because they're not doing anything. So I've kind of made it my mission to get rid of those kinds of labs. And so part of what I needed to be able to fix these labs and make them what I wanted is a big mattress pad, because I'm going to cut it up into these little squares and they're going to be launching little ball bearings off of the tables, and that way it will land on these foam squares. And my hope was that it would land and stick and then not be all over the place. I didn't want, steel ball bearings all over the place. So Tuesday, I got this big mattress pad in that I ordered because I figured that was the most economical way to get like memory foam, because I wanted it to be very squishy. And so then it got in and I went over to the department to go grab it. And my boss, the department chair, was giving me all kinds of grief about like, you're napping on the job and now you're getting us to buy you mattress pads for it, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to throw out my back sleeping under my desk. So he got a kick out of that and thought that it was a very good idea to do something like that if I was going to be doing that kind of a lab. But it was very funny because then I had to lug it back across campus because my office is not in the physics building. So I lugged it all the way back across campus, and then of course did that whole thing where I had to cut the package open because it was all like packed in super tight, and then it just like expanded and it stunk really bad. But it will work perfectly for what I need to do. Now I just have to figure out how to cut through it. And I think I might go bug the art department and see if they have any tools that would be good for that. But yeah, that was Tuesday. And what else? What else did I do this week? So then, let's see, Wednesday was same as usual. I was teaching as usual. That was like one of my normal teaching days. And then Thursday was like a crazy teaching day. So I had totally forgotten that about a month ago, one of the grad students had asked me if I would fill in for him this week because he was going to March meeting. And at the time I had been like, yeah, that's totally fine. I can do that. I don't mind. But I told him to make sure that he reminded me because otherwise I would totally forget. And I had indeed forgotten. So luckily he sent me an email at the beginning of the week to remind me. And I was like, oh, yes, of course, I can still, teach for you. So, which meant teaching one lab at 8 in the morning and another lab at noon. And then my normal lab that I teach at 5:30. So that was just a lot of interacting with students during the day. But it was crazy to see how different these students were, because he teaches one of the calc-based physics labs, and I've only really taught the algebra-based physics labs. And so most of the students that he has are either physics majors or engineering majors of some sort, or chemistry majors. And versus like a lot of the students I have are pre-med or some other kind of field like that. So his students tend to be much more in like the hard sciences, versus mine are much more like life sciences kind of thing. So yeah, it was just very interesting because his students were definitely much more like independent and like self-sufficient than mine tend to be. So very interesting. And it gave me a lot of things to think about in terms of like how I'm trying to like structure the labs and stuff. So yeah, that was interesting, and just a very, very long day. But it was also a good day because I got to come home and I got my new glasses, which hopefully you noticed if you've watched more than 1 week worth of this. But yeah, I got my new glasses. These were the ones that I had decided on forever ago, and then it just took me a while to get them ordered. And it was actually fairly speedy, like once I got them ordered, and then they got shipped to me pretty quickly. And yeah, I am very happy with them. I'm very happy with dealing with Warby Parker, so no complaints there. And they are so much lighter than my other ones, which was part of the reason I was getting new glasses, was because there was nothing wrong with my other ones, but they are just so heavy because my eyes are so bad that I needed smaller lenses and just something that wouldn't weigh down my face so bad. So these have really been doing well, and I've been enjoying them, and I enjoy kind of the different look that it gives, because I feel like the clear frames make it brightens up my face a lot. Like it's not like a harsh line like dividing my face. It's very like bright, and you know, depending on the lighting, it's either they're kind of like not there, or they can be very bright and like just really pop. And so I like them. I'm very happy with them. But yeah, and then what else? Then Friday was just a very kind of not super productive day. I mean, I got things done, but it was just kind of one of those days where I was just like completely wiped out from the week and just did not get as much done as I would have hoped. And then yesterday I didn't get anything done. I just needed a day to just like rest and really like recharge, and because yeah, I was just completely worn out from the week. It was just bleh. So I basically sat in bed most of the day yesterday. I wasn't sick or anything, but I just wanted to sit in bed with my legs under the covers and sit and knit. And I watched a lot of travel vlogs because I have definitely been feeling a bit of wanderlust lately. And I think it's because we have travel plans coming up, but they're not for a little while. You know, like the nearest travel on the horizon is that end of April Fiber Festival, which I'm going to try it again. Powhatan. Tell me if that's right. Powhatan. Anyway, so yeah, that's like the nearest travel, but I'm just like, I want to go places. I want to go places real bad. So I've been watching travel vlogs for places like Indonesia and like Malaysia and South Africa, just like places all over the place. Not even places that I necessarily want to go to, but just, you know, I just want to live vicariously through someone else's travel. So yeah, that's what I did yesterday. And then today I had my tutoring that I've been doing, which thankfully I don't have to do next weekend, because apparently next weekend is Easter and just nobody told me. So yes, I don't have to do it next week, and I may not have to do it the weekend after that because it's their spring break. So we'll see. But yeah, I really kind of can't wait for that to end, you know. But yeah, then like I said, we have to go get some groceries, and I have some new recipes I want to try out because I'm sick of like not cooking. And so I want to, you know, cook more, and I want to be cooking healthy things. So I've decided that this week, darn it, I am cooking healthy things. And yeah, I think that's kind of been my life. This next week, hopefully we'll get back to normal because, you know, I'm only doing my normal amount of teaching again. And yeah, I'm just, you know, with spring break and then this past week. So like spring break went from, you know, no teaching, very normal kind of work hours, 8 to 5 kind of work hours, to this past week being like a lot of teaching, very strange hours, just all over the place. Was like a real shock to my system, and I just wanted to like get back to my normal work. And I'm actually kind of gearing up because part of the perks of my job here at the university is that I can take classes for free. I get a tuition waiver. So I'm planning on taking a class over the summer, which of course will just add to my workload because I'm not already drowning in work, But it was funny because I was talking to the department chair, my boss, this week, and I was telling him, yeah, I really want to take this class, but during the summer it's only offered during the day. And I was kind of like, is it okay if I just kind of like come in early and leave a little bit later so I can like be gone for this hour during the day? And it was so funny because he looked at me as if I was crazy. He's like, you're salaried. He's like, it doesn't matter what hours you work as long as the job gets done. And I was like, oh, okay. Are you sure? Because it's been so strange because at my last job I was salaried, but we still had to like bill time in 15-minute increments to different projects. So like, even though I was salaried and my paycheck didn't necessarily depend on it, I still had to like account for all of my time in a very neurotic sort of way. And so it made me very paranoid about that kind of stuff. And so like here, where like I truly have a salaried job where it's like, you don't have to work 8 to 5 if that's not what it takes to get your job done. Like if you want to work 9 to 6 or you want to work whatever, you can do that. Or like, I don't have to be in my office all day. If I want to take my grading and go to the library, that's fine. As long as the things that are getting done need to get done, that's okay. So it's very strange for me, but he just looked at me like I was completely bonkers. And so, yeah, hopefully I'll be taking a class and then I can talk about that soon. But at this point I'm rambling, I can tell. And I always feel like when I'm recording these things that I'm making no sense. And I think it's because I'm talking to a camera. Like there's no one else here. There's no interaction. So it's just me spouting words out. And usually when I watch it later, I'm like, okay, yeah, that kind of made sense. Sure. But at this point I can tell that I'm rambling. So thank you very much for watching this week. I really appreciate you joining me and I hope to see you again next week. I guess I'll be recording on Easter next week, which, okay, great. But yeah, I will see you guys next week. Thanks for joining me. Please make sure to go to the blog and fill out that little questionnaire thing. And yeah, have a good week.